Ethan stood at the doorway, suitcase in hand, with his German shepherd, Buddy, sitting obediently by his side. The dog's eyes were wide and trusting, tail thumping softly against the wooden floor. The morning sun filtered through the living room curtains, casting warm stripes of light across the carpet. It was a peaceful moment, the kind you don't realize is precious until it's gone. "I'll be back before you know it," Ethan said, crouching to scratch behind Buddy's ears. The dog leaned into his touch, letting out a quiet huff, as if he understood every word. He looked up at Ethan with eyes so full of loyalty, it almost made him change his mind. But this trip was important. A month-long assignment out of state, a rare opportunity to lead a project he'd been chasing for over a year. It was the kind of career moment you didn't turn down. Still, his biggest worry wasn't the workload or the new city, it was leaving Buddy. That's why he was grateful for Luna. She stood a few feet away, arms folded casually, dressed in one of Ethan's hoodies, hair tied up in a messy bun. She smiled at the two of them, the picture of ease and affection. "Ethan, you're acting like you're going off to war," she teased gently. "It's just for weeks. I've got this. Buddy and I are going to have a great time." He looked at her, searching for reassurance. "You promise? You'll walk him twice a day, feed him by 8, he likes his food a little warm. And relax," she cut in, stepping forward to wrap her arms around him. "I know his routine. You've only told me 20 times, he chuckled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "He's my best friend. I've had him since he was a puppy. He's been through everything with me." "I know," she said softly, "and I'll treat him like he's mine. You can count on me," Ethan believed. She had always been sweet with Buddy, petting him when she came over, sneaking him treats under the table, letting him sleep by her feet while they watched movies. She'd even offered to stay at Ethan's apartment the whole month instead of moving Buddy to her place, just to make the transition easier for him. Everything felt right. When the car came to pick him up, Ethan gave Buddy one last hug. The dog whimped softly, sensing something was different. Ethan whispered, "Be good boy. I'll miss you." Then he turned and walked out the door, heart heavy despite the excitement of what lay ahead. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan adjusted to his new routine in Chicago. The city was buzzing with energy, his team was supportive, and the project was moving faster than expected. But every night, when he returned to his temporary apartment, it felt a little too quiet. That's when Luna's updates became the highlight of his day. She sent him photos of Buddy lounging on the couch, videos of him chasing his favorite tennis ball in the park, even a clip of him howling along to a song on the radio. Her texts were cheerful and full of affection. "He misses you, but we're bonding. He even let me brush his teeth yesterday. Guess who finally learned to shake? Took a week, but your boy's got skills." It made Ethan feel like he'd made the right choice. He showed the photos to his coworkers, bragging about how well Luna and Buddy were getting along. "She's the best," he'd say with a grin. "I'm lucky." And truly, he believed that. He imagined coming home to a happy reunion, Buddy sprinting down the hallway, barking with joy, Luna waiting with open arms and a smile. Maybe they'd open a bottle of wine, sit on the floor with Buddy between them, laughing about the funny things he'd done. It felt like the beginning of something permanent. Ethan had even started looking at rings. But beneath the perfect messages and sunny snapshots, something unseen was brewing. There had been a few small things that didn't quite add up. One day, Luna texted that she couldn't send a video because her phone was acting up. Another time, when Ethan asked for a quick FaceTime, she said she was out running errands and Buddy was sleeping. Once or twice, her messages came much later in the day than usual, with vague explanations. Still, Ethan brushed it off. Everyone gets busy. Phones glitch. No big deal. He had no reason not to trust her. Buddy had always been a healthy dog, strong, playful, with boundless energy. If anything were wrong, surely Luna would tell him. She loved that dog, didn't she? As the final week of his assignment approached, Ethan got word from his manager. The project had wrapped ahead of schedule. He could go home 3 days early. At first, he considered telling Luna, But then he smiled at the thought of surprising her. He pictured her opening the door in shock, Buddy leaping into his arms, tail wagging so hard it knocked over a lamp. Maybe they'd all cuddle on the couch that night and catch up on everything he'd missed. He booked a flight without saying a word. He even stopped at a pet store on the way to the airport and bought Buddy a brand new leather collar, brown with brass studs, the kind that would make any German Shepherd look like royalty. He couldn't wait to see the big guy wearing it. The plane ride was smooth, the cab ride faster than expected. As the skyline of his city came into view, Ethan's heart swelled with anticipation. Home, Buddy, Luna. He reached his apartment building just before sunset. He didn't call, didn't knock, just used his key, stepped inside quietly, and prepared to witness the joy of a dog reuniting with the person he loved most in the world. But the apartment was silent. Too silent, no barking, no paws skidding across the floor, no Luna calling out from the kitchen, just ... silence. Ethan froze in the entryway, brows furrowing. Something felt off. He called out, "Buddy," no answer. He took a cautious step forward, then another, and that's when he saw something move in the hallway shadows. Not bounding with excitement, not wagging a tail, but crawling, slow, hesitant. A shape emerged, thinner than he remembered, dirtier, eyes wide, unsure. It was Buddy, and he didn't look happy to see Ethan. He looked ... afraid. Hi ChatGPT. The first time Luna messaged him after he landed in Chicago, it was a simple text with a heart emoji. "We miss you already." Buddy tried to sleep by the door last night. "He's a little confused, but he's okay," Ethan smiled when he read. It eased the knot in his chest that had formed the moment he boarded the plane. He replied quickly, asking for a picture. Minutes later, a photo came through. Buddy lying on the living room rug, his paws stretched out in front of him, head resting between them. The timestamp was from that morning. Ethan zoomed in on the image, as if the pixels could tell him how his dog was really doing. He looks fine, he thought. A little sleepy, maybe, but fine. And so began the pattern. Every morning before Ethan headed into the office, there'd be a new photo waiting. Buddy curled up in a blanket. Buddy chewing on a toy. Buddy sitting by the window, ears perked. Luna added little captions like, "Still your good boy." Or he barked at a squirrel for 20 minutes this morning, send help. It felt like a lifeline. Between the long hours, new team dynamics, and the pressure to deliver results, Ethan found himself clinging to those daily updates. They made the sterile hotel room feel a little warmer. They made Chicago feel a little less like a strange city and more like a stepping stone, something temporary, before getting back to what really mattered. Sometimes, Luna would add voice messages. Her voice, light and teasing, would drift through his phone speaker while he sat at his desk or brushed his teeth. "I tried to give him a bath today. Let's just say, I'm wetter than he is. But he smells like lavender now, so you're welcome. He stole my sock, again. Pretty sure it's revenge for not giving him extra dinner." Ethan laughed at those. He played them twice, sometimes 3 times, especially late at night when he missed the quiet weight of Buddy curled against his legs. She seemed to be doing everything right, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, small oddities began to surface. There were days she didn't send a picture until evening. Once, when Ethan asked about Buddy's walk, Luna replied, "We skipped it today, it's raining hard." He checked the weather back home, light drizzle at best. He let it go. Dogs skip walks sometimes. Another time, she sent a photo of Buddy lying on the couch, but Ethan noticed something strange. He was wearing the same green bandana from a picture 2 days before. Not just the same type. The same exact fold, same stain near the knot. The same lighting. It unsettled him. He didn't mention it. He told himself he was overthinking. Maybe she reused the photo. Maybe it was a coincidence. People reuse photos all the time, don't they? Then came the missed calls. He'd try to FaceTime her after work to see Buddy. Just for a minute, just to hear him bark, but each time, there was a reason. "I'm in the middle of dinner. He's sleeping. I don't want to wake him." My camera's acting weird. Maybe tomorrow. It felt off. Luna wasn't the type to dodge calls, not before. They used to video chat for hours when Ethan traveled for work. She'd complain. He didn't call enough. Now she was dodging him. Still, every time Ethan got close to voicing his suspicion, she'd send a new message that smoothed everything over. A photo of Buddy licking peanut butter from a spoon. A short video of him barking at the vacuum cleaner. A text that said, "He's doing great. Promise. We miss you tons. Come back soon." He didn't want to be the paranoid boyfriend. He didn't want to accuse someone who had, as far as he could tell, been kind and generous with her time. Luna hadn't asked for anything. She wasn't complaining. She was doing him a favor. But in the back of his mind, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The messages lacked depth. No new stories, no funny incidents, just surface-level updates. They didn't feel like her. It was as if someone was pretending to be cheerful, or worse, trying to avoid being caught. One night, during his third week away, Ethan had a strange dream. He was back home. The apartment was dark and quiet. He opened the door and called for Buddy, but nothing came. Then, from the hallway, he saw two eyes staring at him, eyes full of fear. Not his playful tail-wagging Buddy, but something gaunt, broken. He woke up sweating. That morning, he texted Luna asking if everything was okay. She replied almost instantly, "Everything's fine. Just woke up." Buddy's already waiting by the door like he knows it's almost your return date. He's so smart. She attached another picture. Buddy in the kitchen, looking up at the camera. But, again, Ethan noticed something off. The timestamp in the corner was cropped out. The floor looked cleaner than he remembered. And there was no food bowl in sight, even though it should have been breakfast time. His stomach twisted. He scrolled back through the weeks of photos. Not a single video showed Buddy moving. Every clip was just a few seconds long, all the same angle. No walks. No outings. Just static shots in the same two rooms. How had he missed it? He tried to call Luna. No answer. He called again, straight to voicemail. That day at work, Ethan couldn't focus. Every time he looked at his phone, he felt more certain that something was being hidden from him. He didn't know what, exactly. But the image of Buddy's eyes in his dream haunted him. The next day, Luna messaged casually. "Buddy's being extra clingy today. I think he misses you. He sat in front of the door for almost an hour. I showed him your picture. He licked it. It sounded cute. Too cute." Too perfectly crafted. Ethan stared at the message and didn't reply. He sat on the edge of his bed, thinking about the past 3 weeks, replaying every detail. The ring he had looked at online. The weekend trip he'd planned as a surprise for Luna and Buddy. All of it felt hollow now. Because deep down, something was wrong. And whatever it was, he was about to find out. He just didn't know how bad it would be. Not yet. Ethan stood outside his apartment building, just as the last rays of daylight disappeared behind the city skyline. The taxi had dropped him off a few blocks early. He wanted to walk the last bit alone, to savor the anticipation. The air was crisp. The kind of cool evening breeze that made coming home feel even more special. In his coat pocket, he clutched the new leather collar he'd picked out for Buddy. Dark brown, thick, sturdy, engraved with his name in brass. It even had a little tag, shaped like a bone, that read, "My best friend." He smiled at the thought of surprising them both. He imagined Buddy hearing his footsteps, scrambling to the door, barking madly. He could almost feel the weight of the dog jumping into his arms, tail wagging furiously, whining in joy. Luna would appear behind him, her eyes wide with surprise, then laughter. Maybe she'd scold him for not telling her. Maybe they'd kiss. Maybe everything would feel perfect again. The elevator ride felt slow. Each floor ticked by like a minute on a clock. By the time he reached the 3rd floor, his heart was pounding, not from nerves, but from sheer excitement. He unlocked the door quietly. No sound came from inside. That was the first red flag. Buddy always barked when the door opened, even when it was just the mailman dropping something off. Even when Ethan forgot his keys and jiggled the handle a little too loudly. Buddy always barked. He stepped in, shutting the door softly behind him. The apartment was dim, lit only by the soft orange glow of the setting sun seeping through the blinds. It smelled faintly musty, like the windows hadn't been opened in weeks. The usual scent of dog food and warm fur was absent. "Buddy," he called gently. No reply. His shoes echoed against the hardwood floor as he stepped deeper inside. The living room was still. The couch was unkempt, pillows scattered, a thin blanket bunched up on one side, but there were no signs of a happy, well-cared-for dog. Then he saw it, a shadow, low to the ground, creeping from the hallway. At first, it didn't register. He squinted. It was Buddy, but not the Buddy he remembered. The dog moved slowly, almost hesitantly, like he wasn't sure who was there. His ribs were visible, his once muscular body now shockingly thin. His coat was patchy and dull, matted in places. He flinched as he stepped closer, shrinking back against the wall like he was bracing for something. Ethan froze. "Buddy." The dog's eyes met his. There was recognition but no joy. No bounding leap, no bark, just fear. Ethan dropped to his knees. "Hey, it's me. It's okay. Buddy, come here, boy." Buddy took one shaky step forward, then another. He stopped a few feet away, lowering his head and trembling. Ethan could see dried blood on one of his ears. His front paw looked swollen. His tail stayed tucked between his legs, unmoving. It felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "Jesus," Ethan whispered, extending a hand slowly. "What happened to you?" Buddy sniffed his hand, tentatively, as if making sure it was really him. Then, finally, the dog inched forward and pressed his head against Ethan's chest. Ethan wrapped his arms around him, burying his face into the rough fur. Buddy let out a low, muffled whine. Ethan held him tighter, trying to hold back the wave of emotions swelling inside him. He stood slowly, scooping Buddy into his arms, not because the dog couldn't walk, but because he didn't want to let him go. He carried him to the couch and laid him down gently. That's when he noticed the living room more clearly. The water bowl was empty, bone dry. The food bowl had crusted remnants of kibble hardened at the bottom, like it hadn't been cleaned in days. The toys were gone. The blanket Buddy used to sleep with was nowhere in sight. The apartment felt cold. Abandoned? Wrong. He pulled out his phone and checked his messages from Luna, just yesterday. She had texted, "He ate 2 whole bowls today. I think he's growing." Along with a picture of Buddy sitting upright, ears perked, tongue out. Ethan looked at the dog lying before him, weak, barely able to hold his head up. The photo was a lie. His fingers trembled as he opened the gallery and scanned backward. So many pictures, so many smiles, all fake. The silence in the apartment was interrupted by the faint creak of the bedroom door opening. Ethan turned sharply. Luna stood in the doorway wearing one of his t-shirts, her expression sleepy and confused. "Ethan," she said, blinking. "What are you doing here? I thought you weren't." Her words caught in her throat when she saw Buddy on the couch. Ethan was already standing. What the hell happened to him? His voice was low, dangerously steady. Luna opened her mouth, then closed it again. What do you mean? He's starving, he's hurt, he's terrified. Look at him." She glanced at the dog, then back at Ethan. "I don't know what you're talking about. He's fine. He's just tired. Stop." Ethan, jaw clenched. "I just got here. He didn't even bark. He didn't even move until he saw me. He's skin and bones. He flinched when I reached for him." Luna's expression began to shift from confusion to defensiveness. "He's a sensitive dog. Maybe he missed you. Maybe he's just been stressed. Don't lie to me." Ethan's voice cracked. "You promised me you'd take care of him." "I did," she snapped suddenly. "I fed him. I walked him. What more do you want? He's just dramatic." Ethan stared at her, stunned. Dramatic. Luna crossed her arms. "You're overreacting. You always do this. You treat that dog like he's a child or something." "He is my family," Ethan said, his voice rising, "and you let him suffer. You lied to me." Every day you lied. You sent fake photos, fake messages. Why? She didn't answer. She just stood there, silent, jaw tight, eyes darting around the room. Buddy let out another soft whine. Ethan turned away from her and kneeled beside the couch again. "I'm so sorry, Buddy," he whispered, stroking the dog's head. "I never should have left you. I trusted the wrong person." Luna lingered in the hallway for a moment, then quietly disappeared back into the bedroom. Ethan didn't follow. He sat there for a long time, hand resting on Buddy's fragile body, heart pounding in his chest. Everything he thought he knew about Luna, about the last month, was unraveling fast, and this was just the beginning. Hi ChatGPT. Ethan barely slept that night. He lay on the living room floor next to the couch, one hand resting gently on Buddy's side, feeling the slow rise and fall of the dog's breath. Every so often, Buddy whimpered softly in his sleep, legs twitching. As if caught in some nightmare, Ethan didn't move. He stayed there, listening, blaming himself with every second that passed. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting long bars of light across the room. It didn't bring any peace. The apartment still felt heavy, tense, like the truth hadn't finished revealing itself yet. Ethan stood quietly and went to the kitchen. The cupboards were nearly bare. Only a half-full bag of dog food sat in the corner, unopened. He frowned. He had left 2 bags, sealed and stacked neatly before he left. One was missing entirely, and the other didn't look touched. He opened the fridge. A few takeout containers, a bottle of wine. No sign of cooked meals, no sign of any food prepared for Buddy. His jaw clenched. He turned, walked back to the living room, and gently called Buddy's name. The dog raised his head slowly, eyes dull, tail thumping once, weakly. "Let's get you checked out, okay?" He wrapped Buddy in a blanket and lifted him carefully into his car. The drive to the vet felt surreal. Streets blurred past, traffic lights changed without meaning. He couldn't shake the image of Buddy as he found him the night before, shrunken, silent, more ghost than dog. At the vet clinic, a young technician took one look at Buddy and called the doctor immediately. Dr. Harper, the same woman who'd treated Buddy since he was a puppy, came rushing out, her face tightening the moment she saw him. "My God, Ethan," she whispered. "What happened to him?" "I don't know," Ethan said, his voice brittle. "That's why I'm here." They took Buddy into the back. Ethan sat in the waiting room, gripping his knees, eyes fixed on the floor. Every minute felt like an hour. When Dr. Harper returned, she had a tablet in her hand, and concern etched deep into her features. "He's severely dehydrated," she began, "and malnourished. He's lost over 12 pounds since his last checkup." Ethan blinked, stunned. 12, at least. He's also got multiple bruises on his ribs, back legs, and one near the base of his tail. Some of them are older, some newer, and his front paw, it's sprained, possibly from a fall. Ethan felt sick. "But there's more," she added quietly. "We found patches of skin irritation. Some are from scratching, others look like minor burns." "Burns," he repeated, voice shaking. She nodded slowly. "It's not clear what caused them. Could be from a hot surface, or something chemical. We can't say for sure, but Ethan, this didn't happen by accident." He looked up at her. His mouth was dry. "This wasn't just neglect," she said gently. "Someone hurt him." Ethan couldn't speak. His mind raced back to all the texts, the photos, the cheerful messages, the fake videos, Luna's laugh, her casual dismissal. The way Buddy had shrunk into himself when she appeared in the hallway. He clenched his fists. "I'm filing a report," Dr. Harper said. "I'm required to. This qualifies as abuse." "Do it," Ethan said quietly. The vet placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll keep him here for a couple of nights. Get fluids into him. Start a gentle feeding schedule. He needs time." Ethan nodded, rising slowly. "Can I see him before I go?" She led him into the back room. Buddy was lying on a soft blanket, hooked up to a saline drip. He wagged his tail once when he saw Ethan, eyes heavy but alert. Ethan knelt beside him. "So sorry," he whispered. "I should have known. I should have come home sooner. Buddy pressed his nose into Ethan's hand. That night, Ethan returned to the apartment with a storm raging inside him. Luna was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. She looked up, startled to see him. "Where's Buddy?" At the vet, her face faltered. "Why? He's dehydrated, starved, injured. He has bruises and burns." "Luna, burns." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. "I talked to Dr. Harper," Ethan continued, voice cold. "She's filing an abuse report." Luna stood abruptly. "You think I hurt him?" "You tell me," he said. "You were the only one here. You were supposed to take care of him. I trusted you." She began pacing, defensive. "You don't know what it was like. He barked all night. He peed on the floor. He chewed my shoes, destroyed the curtains. I was going insane. So you—" "What?" Ethan snapped. "Stopped feeding him, hit him, burned him." Her eyes flared with something unrecognizable. "I didn't mean to hurt him. You lied to me. Every single day, you sent fake photos, fake updates. You pretended everything was fine. I was trying to fix it." She cried. "I thought I could handle it, but he wouldn't listen. He hated me." "No," Ethan said. "He was scared of you, and now I know why." There was a long silence. Then she said, "You care more about that damn dog than me." Ethan stared at her. "You're right." She froze. "He's never lied to me," he continued. "He's never hurt anyone. He's never faked love or manipulated me. He just trusts, unconditionally." Luna's face twisted with a mix of anger and shame. "You think you're so perfect, like you've never made a mistake." "This wasn't a mistake," Ethan said firmly. "This was cruelty." She didn't reply. After a long moment, she turned and walked to the bedroom. A few minutes later, she came out with a duffel bag slung over her shoulder. "I'll come back for the rest," she said. Not meeting his eyes, Ethan didn't respond. She opened the door and paused. "I never wanted it to get that bad," she said quietly, "but he made me feel like I wasn't good enough." Then she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving Ethan alone in the apartment that suddenly felt colder than ever. He sat down slowly on the floor, letting the silence stretch around him. He stared at the spot where Buddy used to curl up by the coffee table. He couldn't stop replaying it, all the messages, the signs he missed, the guilt heavy on his shoulders. But beneath the anger, beneath the sadness, there was something else taking root. A quiet vow, never again. 2 days passed before Ethan was allowed to bring Buddy home from the clinic. Dr. Harper gave him a stack of papers, detailed instructions for feeding schedules, medication dosages, wound care. She spoke gently but firmly, like someone who had seen this kind of pain too many times before. "He's healing," she said, "but the emotional scars will take longer than the physical ones." Ethan nodded, without speaking. Buddy stood beside him, leash loose, his movements cautious but steadier than before. His coat had been gently cleaned, the matted fur trimmed away, the wounds treated. His ribs still showed, but his eyes had a little more light in them now. When they got back to the apartment, Buddy hesitated at the doorway. Ethan knelt beside him. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I promise, no more lies, no more pain." Buddy stepped inside. Ethan had cleaned everything. The couch had been vacuumed, the floor scrubbed, every trace of Luna's presence erased. He even threw away the blanket she used to curl up with, the one Buddy had once claimed as his nap spot. He didn't want the scent lingering. He didn't want any reminders. He placed a new bed by the window, soft and large, with a thick fleece lining. Buddy walked over slowly, sniffed it, and curled into a tight ball without hesitation. It was the first time Ethan had seen him rest willingly since coming home. For a while, Ethan just sat and watched him. No TV, no music, just silence and the slow rhythm of a dog beginning to trust the world again. But the silence didn't last. That evening, Luna called. Ethan stared at the screen, his jaw tightening. He didn't want to hear her voice. He didn't want her anywhere near them, but a part of him needed to know what she would say, needed to hear the excuses fall apart. He answered. She sounded calm. "To calm, I'm sorry, she began. You don't get to say that, Ethan replied, his voice flat. Not anymore. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. No, he said. A mistake is forgetting to feed him once. A mistake is being late for a walk. What you did was abuse. She hesitated. I didn't know what else to do. He wouldn't listen. He kept acting out. I was overwhelmed, so you hit him, Ethan snapped. You locked him in the bathroom. You let him go without food or water. I didn't mean for it to get that bad, she whispered. But it did. There was silence on the line. I loved you, she said. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. Then you should have loved what I loved. She started crying. At least, it sounded like crying. He couldn't tell anymore what was real. I thought maybe we could fix this, she said. Try again. I made a mistake, but people make mistakes. All the time. I'm not people, Ethan said. And you didn't hurt just me. You hurt him. You broke something that won't ever heal the same way again. I can change. I don't care. He hung up. The days that followed were slow, but purposeful. Ethan rearranged his schedule to work remotely. He started waking up early, cooking breakfast for himself, and preparing Buddy's meals with Caresoft foods. Warm broth, small portions. He spoke to Buddy often, narrating everything like he was talking to a child. Laundry day, today, Buddy. You'll help me pick the settings, yeah. Buddy listened, always nearby, always watching. There were moments of progress. One morning, Ethan dropped a spoon and flinched instinctively, expecting Buddy to cower, but he didn't. He blinked at the noise, then simply wagged his tail once and laid his head back down. Another day, Buddy followed Ethan into the bathroom and waited outside the shower door. Just like he used to, but there were still shadows. Sometimes, Buddy would bolt awake from a nap, heart pounding, eyes wide. Sometimes he'd freeze if Ethan raised his arm too quickly. Once, when a loud knock came at the door, Buddy crawled under the table and didn't come out for 10 minutes. Ethan never pushed him. He let him set the pace. Trust, he realized, was something that had to be earned. All over again, one afternoon, about 2 weeks later, Ethan took Buddy to the park for the first time. He brought a blanket, a thermos of coffee, and a book. Buddy walked beside him, leash loose, ears perked, cautious but curious. They sat in a quiet spot under a tree. The breeze was cool, and the grass had just started to turn golden. Children played in the distance, and birds chirped in the trees above. Ethan looked down to find Buddy watching a squirrel dart between two bushes. His ears twitched, and for a moment, Ethan saw a flicker of the old Buddy, the alert stance. The twitch of excitement. Go on, Ethan said, smiling. Buddy didn't chase the squirrel, but he wagged his tail. That night, as they lay on the couch, Buddy, resting his head on Ethan's lapathan, thought about everything they'd survived. The betrayal, the fear, the slow, painful process of healing. He didn't know what would come next. He didn't know if Buddy would ever be the same. But they were moving forward, together, one step, one day, one quiet moment at a time, and Ethan made himself a promise, deep in the silence of that evening, he would never let anything like that happen again. Not to Buddy, not to anyone he loved. He wasn't just rebuilding trust, he was rebuilding home. It was late autumn when Ethan noticed the change. The leaves had started falling in thick layers, painting the sidewalks in reds and golds. The air smelled like firewood and damp earth. But what struck Ethan wasn't the season, it was Buddy. One morning, he woke to find Buddy sitting by the window, ears perked, tail wagging slowly. Not because he'd heard a noise or sensed something strange, but because he was watching the wind play with the trees. Calm, peaceful, present. For the first time since that night, Buddy looked whole. Ethan smiled from the kitchen, where he was making breakfast. He'd started cooking more these days, eggs, toast, sometimes oatmeal. Routine had become a kind of therapy for both of them. Every step, every small action, helped stitch things back together. Want to go to the lake today? He asked. Buddy tilted his head. Then, slowly, he stood and walked over, sitting at Ethan's feet, tail thumping once. That was his yes. The lake was an hour's drive away, nestled in a quiet park just outside the city. It was a place Ethan used to visit in college, back when he needed space to think. Now, it felt like the perfect escape, somewhere clean, unspoiled, free. They arrived just as the sun broke through the clouds. The air was crisp, but not cold. Ethan let Buddy out of the car and clipped on his leash. They walked slowly at first, along the edge of the water, passing trees shedding their last bursts of color. Buddy sniffed everything: the leaves, the benches, the air itself. His body moved with more strength now, more confidence. The scar on his front leg was fading. His ribs no longer showed. And when another dog passed by on the trail, Buddy didn't cower or flinch. He stood tall, curious, even gave a little wag. They found a quiet spot near the shore where Ethan laid out a blanket and poured coffee from his thermos. Buddy curled beside him, pressing his head against Ethan's leg. For a while, they sat in silence, and then Ethan began to talk. He hadn't spoken about it before, not fully, not to anyone. But here, under the open sky, with no one around to listen except Buddy, the words came. "You know," he said quietly, "I kept thinking it was my fault, that I should have seen it, that maybe I pushed too hard, asked too much of her." Buddy looked up, listening. "But the truth is, hurting someone like you, someone who trusts without question, that's not a mistake. That's a choice, and she made it." Again and again, he sighed. "I just wish I'd realized sooner. I wish I hadn't left you alone with her." Buddy nudged his hand, warm and forgiving. "I don't know if I'll ever trust someone like that again," Ethan admitted. "Not in the same way." The breeze picked up, rustling the trees. Buddy stood, stretched, and took a few steps forward, sniffing the edge of the lake. Then he turned and looked back, waiting. Ethan smiled. "Okay, let's go." They walked along the shore for another hour. When they returned to the car, Buddy jumped into the back seat without hesitation, curled into his blanket, and fell asleep almost instantly. That night, as they settled back into their apartment, Ethan took out a notebook he'd kept in his drawer. Inside were pages he'd written in the weeks after Luna left, things he hadn't said, questions he hadn't asked, moments he never wanted to forget. He tore out the last page. On it was a short sentence he'd written in a moment of bitterness. "I don't think I'll ever feel safe again." He crumpled it and threw it away. Instead, he wrote, "He made it. We made it." Time passed. Slowly, like healing always does. Winter came. Snow dusted the windows. Ethan bought Buddy a thick fleece-lined jacket, dark gray with reflective trim. The first time he put it on, Buddy rolled around in protest, but he adjusted. They went on walks even in the cold, wrapped in scarves and breath visible in the air. They saw a therapist together, an animal behaviorist who specialized in trauma recovery. She gave Ethan tools to help Buddy regain trust and rebuild emotional safety. And, without realizing it, Ethan healed a bit. Sometimes, people in the park would stop them. "Beautiful dog," someone would say. "He looks so calm." Ethan would smile. He's been through a lot. So had he. One evening, about 4 months after it all began, Ethan received a letter in the mail. It was from the local animal protection agency. The investigation had concluded. Luna had been found responsible for multiple counts of animal neglect and cruelty. She had been ordered to attend mandatory counseling and community service at a shelter under supervision. Ethan didn't feel triumph. He felt closure. He folded the letter and filed it away. Not to revisit it, but to remind himself that he had done what needed to be done. That he hadn't looked away. That he had protected someone who couldn't protect himself. That night, he and Buddy sat on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker. The stars were faint but visible. Buddy rested his chin on Ethan's foot, eyes half closed. "I think we're okay now," Ethan whispered. Buddy thumped his tail once. Eventually, spring returned. The apartment grew brighter. The windows stayed open longer. Buddy's fur shone under the sunlight, thick and clean. He played against chased balls, tugged at ropes, barked with joy. He even learned a new trick, spinning in a circle before sitting, just to make Ethan laugh. They made new memories, visited new places, met new people. But some things stayed the same. At night, Buddy still slept by Ethan's bed, still nudged him awake if he stirred from a nightmare, still rested his head on his lap during quiet mornings, and Ethan, he still kept that leather collar in his drawer. Not the new one, but the old one. The one Buddy wore before everything changed. A reminder of who they were, and who they became. Because love, real love, the kind between a man and his dog, doesn't just survive betrayal, it rebuilds from it, stronger, wiser, deeper, and in the end, that's exactly what they did, together.